So you're looking to make your own homemade TCG, but you don't know where to start. Well, in this video, I'm going to be highlighting 3 aspects that if you have covered, then you are well on your way to making your very own homemade TCG. So let's go through them right now. So the first basic aspect of your homemade TCG is your genre. What is the genre of your TCG? Because you gotta remember, the genre is what invites the audience in. It paints a picture of the world. Do you want high fantasy, low fantasy, dark fantasy, sci-fi, sci-fi fantasy, cyberpunk, steampunk, sword and sorcery, superheroes, supervillains, horror, body horror, gothic horror, paranormal activity? The list goes on and on and on because there are so many types of genres and there are so many subgenres of those genres. So the first thing I want to dive into here, because it is such a long list, is that yes, you can nail a main theme of that list, but you'll never just fit into purely one genre, if you know what I mean. The odds are of this whole list that you will pick about 5 of these genres. I mean, taking Shard TCG into example, which is my own homemade TCG, we have elements of high fantasy, sword and sorcery, we have some aspects of body horror, and we also include some aspects of steampunk. There is a big mix, it's a good melding pot, and you'll find that with a lot of other homemade TCGs that they also have a nice little melding pot. They might have 1 or 2 core themes, but they'll definitely take aspects from everything. So to round up the genres, what I'm saying is pick your main aspect or pick a dual aspect and try and base it off that. Keep that common theme, because you have to remember, when somebody is looking at your game for the first time, these are the things they will be looking at. They'll go, okay, what's the theme? What's the genre? You know, I'm in a sci-fi mood. Are you doing sci-fi? If so, what kind of sci-fi? Is it going to be a hard sci-fi, or is it going to be more fantasy sci-fi where there is a bit more magic included? Somebody might be looking for some sort of horror game. So do they want to go more Lovecraftian, where it is more body horror and more psychological, scary, that type of thing? Or do you want to go more ghosty and like spooky skeletons and things like that? You know, there's those other elements too. You have to analyze what your main theme is, pick a few subgenres, and then go from there. So the second aspect that I want to cover in this video today is mechanics. Now I know it's basic stuff, but this is something that we need to cover. So mechanics of your game are the way that you guide your players through the game. Your job is to make sure that you are the best guide possible for your players. Remember, these players are brand new to the game, and everything that you have created, all the small little intricate aspects, they don't know. It is alien to them. So an important thing to concentrate on that can be overlooked in some people's games is consistent wording. Let's say increase attack power by boost attack strength. These two things can mean the same thing, but you may have accidentally wrote one on one card and one on another card, or perhaps it says one on a card and it says something else in the rule book. So one says boost attack strength and another one says increase attack power. If they mean the same thing, then they should say exactly the same thing. Make sure that your words are consistent. I would recommend putting down a list of key phrases that you use to make sure that you are consistently using the exact same things. Making these lists early on will save you a ton of headache in the future. Believe me, I've been through it. So from what we've learned from making our own homemade TCG is that you can easily fall victim to the language format trapdoor. When things become far too wordy, it becomes more and more inconsistent, and you have to be careful. You have to go through like a fine-tooth comb. Luckily, if you've got some good support out there, some people who really enjoy the game, they will point out the mistakes. And you just have to hold your hands up and go, look, I've got a few hundred cards now. It's getting a little bit hard to keep track of it. Thank you very much for pointing that out for me, because they're doing the work for you. And I'm so grateful for it, because, you know, it's not like they're getting paid or anything like that. They're doing it for us for free, and it's fantastic, you know. So use your fans to your advantage like that as well. And I would just like to say thank you to anybody who has caught wording inconsistencies in our cards and have shown us. It has saved us a lot of trouble having to go through them and a lot of embarrassment as well. And remember, wording format isn't just for what is displayed on cards. It is to be consistent with the rule book, like I've already mentioned, as well as tutorial videos, tip cards if you're going to use those, and face-to-face teaching of people. Don't try and change your wording when you're teaching them face-to-face. If it isn't working face-to-face like that, then it isn't working in your rule book. Keep it consistent. And remember in your tutorial videos to say like and subscribe if any of this has been helpful for you today. The viewers will love it, trust me. Now another extra bit that I want to add to the mechanics aspect of this video is chance versus mathematics. Now it depends on what type of game you're making, but you've got chance versus mathematics, so essentially it's coin flips and dice versus pure numbers. Now personally, I think there's room for both of these in your TCG. I would definitely lean towards mathematics more than chance though. Chance is fun and it is good for a select number of people that will be following your TCG. People love the thrill of coin flips and the roll of dice because it's gambling. We do get dopamine from gambling. It's scientifically proven. So that is going to give us a good feeling. We know that. But people also like the feeling of mathematics superiority as well. It might not sound as enticing, but if you are wanting your game to be taken seriously in the future, then pro players will lean towards a sure thing, and a sure thing is mathematics. You want to go with the hard numbers and the hard answers on effects rather than the flip a coin and see what we get. They will still take some element of that if they can see an advantage to it. But remember, that is more the pro side. We want the mathematics side. The other side is a bit more for casuals, but it is an important part for casuals. So try to have a little bit of both, but lean towards the mathematics. Alright, and the third aspect that I want to bring up today is consistent art style. Now, I've seen this in Pokemon when I was quite young, about 9 or 10 years old, when I was getting Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards had different types of art styles. You know, you had some like the claymation, well not claymation because they weren't animated, but the clay modelled Pokemon. There was some of like the watercoloured style Pokemon, as well as your original like art Pokemon that you would see from the anime series. And as a child, I always felt like the other styles didn't fit. You know, I had my collection of cards and I had all the same art style, barring one. One might be a watercolor art style. And I said, why is this the case? You know, I want them all to look the same. It felt like an imitation to me. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do other art styles. What I'm saying is make sure your core art style is established. Don't try to stretch too far and wide into different things. People need to know that the identity of your TCG is based around an art style, it's based around a genre, and it's based around core mechanics. So for me personally, if I was to change an art style, it would be for a special different set. So at least when you're opening those packs of cards, they are consistent within that set. Of course, when you mix them with other cards, then they are going to be a bit different, but they don't feel out of place in that set. When you open those cards, you don't get that feeling of inconsistency. Of course, if you are doing a community TCG or things like that, then hell yeah, you know, you've got the community together. It's about exploring the different art styles in that case, and that is based around that. So that is perfectly fine. I am not against that. All I'm saying is if you're making a consistent game with consistent mechanics in a consistent genre, then you're probably going to want a consistent art style. We as humans are emotional creatures. We need to feel that connection with that picture on that card. And in most cases, not all cases, but most cases, a lot of people will judge your game before even looking at the mechanics. They will just look at that art style and they will say to themselves, do I feel an instant connection with this card? If they look at that card and they go, whoa, that's really cool, look at the colours, you know, he's black with glowy green things and he's a dragon with giant claws, I love it, he looks awesome, I'm gonna get that card and I'm gonna make a whole deck around that card. I don't even care about the rest of the game. I'll learn the game because I want that card. That's a lot of people's decision making. So make sure you make good mechanics, but really focus on the selling point of the game, which is the style, the art style of the card. At least in my opinion, I feel like that is probably the most important thing. But if you like to explore multiple art styles, here is a twist idea for a TCG. I'm not planning on making this, but I would love to see this happen. Somebody who is a bit more experienced in actually trying different art styles. How about making a TCG where your creature types or hero types or whatever thing that you're using to categorize your cards into separate groups, how about each group is actually an art style? So you could have manga versus Picasso, and seeing them two clash would be quite interesting. Could you imagine going through a new pack of cards and going, oh, there's a really cool Picasso style dragon, oh, and there's a really cool manga style dragon. I just think it's a little bit obscure, but it could be fun to explore. If you could think of other art styles, put them in the comment section below. Maybe come up with a couple of verses for each other, just to get like the gears going in my head. That would be a lot of fun to read, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now these tips will help you get started, but there is much more to go from this point onwards. I mean, you've got playtesting, you've got reworking mechanics, you've got playtesting, you've got playtesting, you've got power balancing your cards, you've got playtesting, and you've got more playtesting. And it goes on and on and on until the end of time. And as you continue to make your TCG, you will gain experience, you will learn new things, and maybe you will get to make a tutorial video on what you've learned, and you might be able to impart some knowledge onto the next person, and so the cycle continues. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you've had a good time. Thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.